Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Merrill Mechler-Hickson. I'm the section chief for WisDOT Local Programs and Finance. With me today are WisDOT Bureau of Local Roads, Railroads, and Harbors Director Jen Murray, WisDOT Transportation Alternatives Program and Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Statewide Program Manager Steph Mertens, and Jackie Carter from the Port of Milwaukee. And I just want to thank, start off by thanking the DB workshop event organizers for the opportunity to come in and talk with you today and give you a quick overview of some of the WisDOT local programs, transit, rail, and harbor business areas. Today's agenda is presented on this slide. I'm going to start just with a general overview of WisDOT local programs. After that, Steph Mertens will give an overview of CMAQ and TAP, two of the department's most important non-traditional transportation programs. After that, Jen Murray will give an overview of the various opportunities in the WisDOT transit, rail, and harbor business areas. And then lastly, Jackie Carter will give a presentation focusing on the Port of Milwaukee. And we do anticipate having time to address any questions after the presentations today. Those of you who are completely unfamiliar with WisDOT local programs, we are the WisDOT Central Office staff who administer and schedule the formula funding programs that assist local governments with needed improvements to local roads, highways, bridges, and bicycle and pedestrian facilities. Local programs is housed in the WisDOT Bureau of Transit, Local Roads, Railroads, and Harbors. My contact information is up on the top of this slide. Directly underneath me is the contact information for Section Supervisor Tim Alushagun, who some of you perhaps have spoken with previously. The individuals who are listed on this slide are all available to assist you with any local programs questions that you may have. Everyone's contact information is here on the screen. Steph Mertens is actually way on the bottom, so clearly this list is not ranked in order of importance, otherwise Steph's contact information would be much higher. So in WisDOT Central Office, again, our job is really administration and scheduling of the programs. For more project delivery focused questions, we do have dedicated regional local program managers who are stationed in specific areas around the state. And please note, we do have a number of new names on this list, including for the Milwaukee area in particular. So in Milwaukee in the southeast, Tyler Benlick is the new local programs contact. In the southwest, your contact would be Brandy Workman. Up in the northwest, Randy Kirk, who I believe has been in his position for quite some time now, as has Evan Maves in the north central region. Up in the northeast, we actually have two contact names that are listed. Kelsey Lorenz would be the individual to reach out to for the Transportation Alternatives Program, the CMAQ program, and the Congestion and the Carbon Reduction Program. Alex Dooms would be the individual to reach out to for the Surface Transportation Program and for Local Bridge. If you have any delivery questions regarding any of our local programs, these individuals are definitely a great resource to start out with first. And if nothing else, they can definitely kind of steer you in the direction of the right person to talk to. Just to give a real simplified summary of what we do here in local programs, WisDOT Local Programs and Finance provides the resources, it encourages sound investments, and generally promotes the importance of local transportation systems to Wisconsin's transportation network, always in accordance with state statute. We administer and schedule the federally and state-funded transportation aids program statewide, and we make every effort to accommodate local transportation needs and priorities, responding to specific initiatives like the recent bipartisan infrastructure law, which I'll talk about in a minute, and programs that result from the state biennial budget process, such as the recent Agricultural Roads Improvement Initiative, which has gotten a lot of news coverage recently. We develop the fiscal mechanisms and the processes to distribute funding, and that can be through a committee-based application process like we have in the Local Roads Improvement Program or in the Transportation Alternatives Program, or through the computerized rating and ranking of projects like we do in our Local Bridge Program. We do all of this to ensure the maximum allocation of funds and efficacy on the local transportation system. Please note that the road and bridge projects that are funded through WisDOT local programs directly serve and impact all 72 Wisconsin counties and all 1,922 local units of government in the state of Wisconsin. As such, local programs and finance is strongly committed to supporting and advancing DBE goals and the delivery of all of our federally funded local programs and related initiatives. And we routinely partner with WisDOT DBE staff to help ensure coordination regarding DBE workforce participation and goal-setting opportunities on local transportation projects. When we talk about local programs, I do want to kind of highlight how the individual local programs are funded and explain how the recent bipartisan infrastructure law plays into this funding. As many people know, signed on November 15th, 2021, the bipartisan infrastructure law represents a significant increase in the amount of federal funding available for local programs through 2026. Some of you may have heard people talking about bill-funded projects. And really the best way to think about how those projects are funded is just to understand that when we're talking about things being bill funded, essentially we're talking about things being federally funded. So the local programs we have that are completely funded with federal dollars include the surface transportation block grant programs, which include the Wisconsin Surface Transportation Program, the new Carbon Reduction Program, and STEP's Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP. The Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program is not funded through STBG, but it also is 100% federally funded. And in addition to these federally funded local programs, we also have some local programs not included that are funded with 100% state, not included on the slide, that are funded with 100% state funding. The biggest examples of these would be the General Transportation Aids, or GTA program, and the Local Roads Improvement Program, or LRIP. Additionally, we have one program, the Local Bridge Program, which is on this slide. That program receives both state and federal funding, and like the other exclusively federally funded programs, has seen a very large increase in funding over the last couple of years. Takeaway that I really just want to stress from all of the recent incredible federal funding increases and the state funding increases is that right now is a time of historic investment in our local road and bridge programs. Considering this administration's LRIP improvements in Governor Evers' budgets to date since state fiscal year 2020, and considering the local road and bridge program investments from state fiscal year 2022 and subsequent years projected out through 2026, which again is the lifespan of the bipartisan infrastructure law, $1.65 billion will be directed to WisDOT programs specifically for local road and bridge projects. This total represents more than a doubling of funding to local road and bridge programs. You can add to that roughly another $200 million in that same time period for the multimodal programs, TAP, Carbon Reduction, and CMAQ. And all of these programs run through the local programs and finance section. This significant increase in federal funding for local road, bridge, and multimodal projects underscores the importance of maintaining a productive and ongoing partnership between the local program section and the WisDOT DBE team. Turn things over to TAP and CMAQ statewide program manager Steph Mertens, who can introduce herself and talk a little bit about our multimodal programs.
Hi everyone, my name is Steph Mertens and I'm the TAP and CMAQ statewide program manager, and as Merrill said, I'll talk a little bit more in depth about TAP and CMAQ. Abbreviations in government. So CMAQ is the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement Program. This is the program that is federally funded, and the emphasis is really on emission reduction in the state of Wisconsin and to help Wisconsin meet our national ambient air quality standards. The Transportation Alternatives Program, also referred to as TAP, focuses on human-powered utilitarian trips with the emphasis on safety for non-drivers, so think walkers and bicyclists. And it also includes the Safe Routes to School, which promotes walking and biking to school. It improves safety and it increases health and physical activity in school-age children between kindergarten and 12th grade. And TAP and CMAQ are both federally funded, and it's a reimbursement program. So projects that receive funding have 80% federal share, 20% local. TAP and CMAQ are both part of initiatives which help to address inequities and underinvestment in disadvantaged communities. They both help improve infrastructure for non-motorized travel and increase public transportation services in underserved communities, and they also reduce single occupancy vehicle travel and associated air pollution in communities. Sponsor eligibility, both TAP and CMAQ share the same eligible sponsors. Couple out, we have local government, school districts, including individual schools, public transit agencies, and tribal governments that are all eligible to, plus more, that are all eligible to apply for funding. As mentioned, it focuses on the emission reduction and improving air quality, and so projects that are funded with CMAQ dollars include those whose efforts are to enhance public transit, bicycle pedestrian facilities, ride-sharing programs and facilities, and technologies that improve traffic flow and vehicle emissions. CMAQ also is limited to the non-attainment and maintenance areas of Wisconsin. So I'll show that on the next slide using a map. But that's the 11 counties that border Lake Michigan. And the selection process for these projects really, again, is based on the emission reduction amounts, particularly those reductions in PM 2.5, VOC, and nitrous oxide. And then there's also an emphasis on cost effectiveness. And here's the map. It's kind of, hopefully you can see the little red stars. But again, it's all of the, it's the 11 counties that border Lake Michigan. And projects are eligible for CMAQ funding only in those 11 counties. It is federally funded, and it supports local sponsors that are interested in funding smaller scale projects using Federal Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Contract Authority and the State Budget Authority. So the emphasis here is really on human-powered daily utilitarian transportation rather than these recreational activities. So think about multi-use paths that help connect neighborhoods to downtown areas rather than a bike path that you would just leisurely go on for fun. Projects for TAP include planning studies, non-infrastructure projects that include like school programming for safe routes to school, and then infrastructure projects for both bike ped and safe routes to school purposes, such as construction of or enhancement of bicycle facilities. These projects do take place statewide, unlike CMAQ, so we really try to we make an effort to fund projects that are diverse in their geographic location, their project type, and the population size served. And so to the point of the slide of the 5 different WisDOT regions, we try to have projects located in every one of those 5 regions. Selection process for TAP projects is based on the project's perceived benefits, its utility, the safety and planning components. And unique to TAP is that under Wisconsin state statute, all awarded TAP projects must commence within 4 years of their award date, so there's a little bit tighter of a deadline to get that project started. Cycle and funding, both TAP and CMAQ are 4-year funded cycles with cycle overlap every 2 years. So WisDOT is working to return to the traditional timeline of solicitations opening and closing in an odd year and program awarding taking place in even years. So over this past summer in 2024, we awarded the 2024-2028 TAP and CMAQ projects, which had been solicited for in June 2023, and their solicitation closed in September 2023. So we anticipate opening our next solicitation cycle for the 2026-2030 cycle in this coming spring, likely end of May, early June of 2025, and having that closed towards the end of summer, and then awards will be announced in the spring of 2026. The customary and prudent practice of the department to estimate current funding levels into the future when calculating future programmatic levels. And in the TAP program, funding is based on population subgroupings. So these subgroupings include rural areas, so less than 5,000 census designated areas, TAP urban 5 to 50K, and TAP urban 50 to 200K. Any projects that are located in areas with census designated over 200,000 are selected by the TMAs, the Transportation Management Areas. And so those projects in particular are scored and ranked using by the TMAs, and then those less than 200K are scored and selected by our statewide selection committee, which is comprised of 11 different agencies, state legislature, WisDOT, different bureaus, and a variety of people. After the passage of BIL, WisDOT established the STARS initiative. STARS stands for the Safe Transportation Alternatives for Rural Schools, and it was created to assist rural communities in applying for TAP funding. Historically, WisDOT has had difficulty reaching and encouraging rural areas to apply for TAP funding for a myriad of reasons. However, our rural partners have some of the highest need for the safe multimodal transportation options for its citizens of all ages. So this initiative, under STARS, provided an a la carte option for safe routes to school infrastructure and non-infrastructure projects at different funding levels, along with lowered the construction minimum requirements specifically in rural areas. So we provided these opportunities, or templates, if you will, so that if a school was applying for safe routes to school, non-infrastructure, so they wanted to implement, a project in the school, they had a better idea as to how to allocate their funds and what they could do with that amount allocated to it. And so while it was introduced under BIL, STARS still remains within the TAP program, and it will continue to be an option for our rural partners in future solicitations. And a fun fact is that from this concerted effort, in the last cycle, from the 2024-2028 cycle, we received twice as many applications from rural sponsors than in both urban subgroupings combined. New to the 2026-2030 cycle, in our upcoming solicitation, we intend to roll out our new online application portal. So this will helpfully streamline the application process, improve communication between applicants in the WisDOT regions, and it will be a center for information and resources. Additional information about the portal will be available in the coming months, and we intend to host a webinar and other informational meetings in the months to come. Turn it over to Jen Murray to provide.
My name is Jennifer Murray. I am the Wisconsin DOT's Bureau Director for the Bureau of Transit, Local Roads, Railroads, and Harbors. And my bureau includes Merrill's section, which is the local road section, as well as the rail and harbor section and the transit section. Those are the opportunities I'll talk about in transit, passenger freight rail, and in the harbors area. Transit. First, I want to introduce the map of the Wisconsin transit systems. These are the current public transit systems in Wisconsin. County-wide and multi-county systems are in green and orange. The shared ride systems are identified with purple circles. Tribes in blue triangles, and fixed route, mostly urban, in yellow diamonds. The solid black lines are commuter or shuttle transit systems, and intercity routes generally follow the dashed lines on the map. State of Wisconsin, also WisDOT, manages public and specialized transit grant programs in rural areas. Examples of eligible projects include shared ride taxis and rural bus systems, so all of the orange and green areas on the prior map. And the Specialized Transit System program, or areas in the purple on the prior map, for elderly and individuals with disabilities. Eligible applicants for these programs include local governments, nonprofits, tribes, and current operators for transit services. And it's important to note that large transit systems like Madison and Milwaukee, Racine, and Green Bay, they set their own DBE goals on the items and services that they buy and build with federal money. So, if you would like some more information on the large urban systems in the state, contact those cities directly for information on their DBE contracting opportunities. This section and its subrecipients estimate that it will have over $5 million in contracting opportunities in calendar year 2025. Transit's 3-year DBE goal, as required by the Federal Transit Administration, is 1.61% of all awarded contracts. Is eligible to apply and be awarded these contracts. There are a few main transit program areas that have DBE opportunities in rural areas that I'd like to highlight. On the bottom of this slide, you can see that the service contractors will be awarded about $3.3 million. Other opportunities include consultant service contracts for planning studies and a federal compliance oversight contract, which includes marketing. There are things such as website development and vendors for equipment and supplies that are needed. And at the bottom of the slide, you can see the website where the opportunities are posted on the Department of Administration's eSupplier website. Passenger rail, you can see that currently we have 2 state-supported services, passenger rail services in Wisconsin. Both of them are operated by Amtrak, who is our service provider. We have the Hiawatha in red going between Milwaukee and Chicago. And in May last year, we added the Borealis service, which is in purple on the map and runs between St. Paul, Minnesota and Chicago, with stops noted on the map at existing locations on the route. These passenger rail services are owned cooperatively with our surrounding states, both in Minnesota and Illinois, and decisions regarding them are cooperatively made with them and along with Amtrak as our service provider. That said, things like marketing and other services are often asked for by the consultant community to help support these services. An example of where WisDOT will be needing assistance with passenger rail service planning is on corridor studies. Currently, there are 4 WisDOT-sponsored corridor studies progressing through Step 1 of the Federal Railroad Administration's funded program. In the next year, possible additional opportunities for assistance to understand service planning for passenger rail may move forward. This includes WisDOT having a current January 2025 solicitation for a consultant to conduct a passenger rail survey. NOIs were due last week on the 22nd, and decisions are being finalized as we speak. These types of opportunities are part of the regular solicitations put on WisDOT's website. Check their ongoing, as there will be opportunities for consultants and subconsultants to do public involvement, service development plans, and possibly conceptual and early preliminary engineering, along with other tasks associated with the corridor identification program. Opportunities are in design and construction. One example of this is already an awarded project along the Borealis route to finish railroad crossing design and implement changes along the Canadian Pacific Kansas City rail line. WisDOT is working with the railroad and Minnesota DOT in terms of doing the construction and finalizing the design along the route. And this slide shows the Borealis route and where some of those track and crossing improvements will be located. Eagle Yard in Milwaukee was recently selected by the Federal Railroad Administration to be awarded project funds and final design funds to assist in that design and construction. The project will construct 2 tracks around the Milwaukee Intermodal Station through the Muskego Yard, and this will improve signal design and also build some new bridges. The contract for final design has not been awarded, and this work is going to include significant cooperation with CPKC to finalize the design. You know, WisDOT also manages a few programs to support freight rail in Wisconsin, and the one that I'd like to highlight on this slide today is the Freight Rail Infrastructure Improvement Program. This program is on the right on the slide and is a loan program that helps communities preserve future rail service. This program has a revolving cycle that communities can apply for to receive funds. More information on both of these programs are on the WisDOT website, but I'm highlighting the FRIP program today because communities sometimes need assistance in developing the application in cooperation with industry. Picture of our Wisconsin waterways extends through the Great Lakes and to the Mississippi. In a way, Wisconsin is quite unique in its development of program funds to support maritime shipping. On the Mississippi River system, the majority of freight includes agriculture and energy products. Great Lakes U.S. ports in 2022 handled 101 million tons, accounting for 4% of all U.S. waterborne cargo by weight. Primary commodities shipped include iron ore at 41%, limestone at 19% of all shipments, and coal at 10%. The reason Wisconsin's program is unique is because we have something called the Harbor Assistance Program. The program standard is outlined in state statute and Transportation Administrative Code. It provides state funds and grants for specific types of projects in Wisconsin's harbors. These include dredging and disposal of dredge material both in and outside of the U.S. Corps of Engineer waterway areas, dock wall repair or maintenance, new project development of a commercial transportation facility where dredging or dock wall is needed, and maintenance. And this picture is from FJ Robbers in La Crosse, where a project was recently underway for dock wall repair and 250 feet of sheet wall in front of the existing dock wall. Specific Harbor Assistance Project Awards are listed out on the WisDOT website, and the ones in this slide were awarded just in the last few weeks. The grantees usually work with local governments for award, and they often hire consultants for design and construction on the facilities. The award was in 2020 to the City of Manitowoc for site development of the harbor facility to construct a ship and a 145-ton crane. Broadwind Heavy Fabricators fabricated the crane components, and Kona Crane assembled, tested, and loaded the crane onto the shipping vessel. In 2021, another HAP award was made to the City of Manitowoc for the expansion of the site to construct additional crane types. The example I will share, and Jackie will talk probably about a little more, is a 2021 and 2022 HAP award to Port Milwaukee and the DeLong Agriculture Maritime Export Facility. This property is used as the first and only intermodal bulk export ag transload facility on the Great Lakes, which will move product via both truck and rail to handy-size or Seaway Max vessels at the port. The port property is located on Jones Island, immediately adjacent to the heart of downtown Milwaukee, and is connected to the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway system. And this is a great segue into Jackie's presentation, as she'll tell you more about Port Milwaukee.
Well, good afternoon. All right, so Jackie Q. Carter, I'm the director of Port Milwaukee. And what I kind of want to do, I think the order of this presentation really made good sense because they talked a lot about the programs. And while you all can be recipients of the program, Port Milwaukee is also a recipient. So they talked about several different programs that we have been beneficiaries of. But what we do with that, because my staff is 21. So we manage the project. We don't actually do the work. We need you all to do that. And so what I'm hoping today, I'll be able to share with you some of the opportunities that you all might be interested in, and you can then become partners with us in this work, right? So when we talk about handling business of Port Milwaukee in the harbor, some of the opportunities that we see frequently, we've got 467 acres of land that we operate. Again, a staff of 21. So I've got engineers and I've got operations folks that are going out and they're looking, what do we need? What needs to get done? But we don't have the capacity to do the work. So we're partnering with businesses like yours. And so equipment repair, rehab, and rail rehab and maintenance, HVAC. There's all kinds of opportunities. We look at Port Milwaukee as kind of like a little small city, honestly. We've got buildings that we have to deal with. We've got infrastructure on the ground. We've got railroad. We own 14 miles of rail track. And while we know that there's a limited number of folks who do that actual rail work, those rail contractors are looking for subcontractors, because one of the benefits of being Port Milwaukee, we are a part of the city of Milwaukee, and so we have some of those small business requirements that you see citywide. So if you see something there that looks like it might be in your wheelhouse, just hold on. I'm going to tell you how to get involved, okay? Beyond Port Milwaukee, though, there are other city departments. Again, we're part of the city of Milwaukee. And so from time to time, we'll have a larger department, like the Department of Public Works will put out what's called a citywide contract. So that means they're bidding a contract where we're going to use that same vendor for a few years, and then every department can kind of piggyback off of that contract, and we don't have to keep going through the same process because we know the work is going to be similar. So you can get involved with those. There's also other departments like ours that are doing smaller contracts. When we get grant opportunities, we have been really successful with federal and state grants. And so when we get those grant opportunities, we're going to be looking for folks to do that work. We also partner with some of our businesses that are on Jones Island. So the way that our port works, while we operate the port, we have private businesses that operate on the port. So we're partnering with them to make sure that we bring business to them, but they also need support. So sometimes that support comes in the form of applying for a grant for them, because there are some grants that a private business cannot apply for, but as a public entity, we can, and then we partner with that business. When they partner with us, though, that means that they're required to follow the purchasing requirements and guidelines that we have. So that's good news for you, right? Because then you can come in and bid on those opportunities as well. We also have some other partners, even beyond the port, that will come to us and ask for references. And so I'm going to tell you how you get involved with that as well. So with the Harbor Commission, we have our own contracting authority. If you've ever done any business with the city of Milwaukee or any city probably in the state of Wisconsin, you know there's a process that you have to go through. There's usually a purchasing department. And our department doesn't have to go through that because the state has granted us our own contracting authority. That means you're working directly with my team. Our Harbor Commission is approving those contracts. The things that you want to be mindful of, though, is that the price of the contract is going to dictate what the process is for us, right? So anything $25,000 or more, we have to do a formal bid. That means that we're going to be advertising. Those are going to be sealed bids. They're going to be open publicly, and they're competitive. And I say that, and there's a benefit to that for us because you don't know what the other folks are giving. You don't know what they're bringing. We usually work with consultants to really kind of get an idea of what kind of costs we're looking at, so we can determine before we put those projects out what kind of prices we should be expecting. And so we're aware before those bids come in, but having them be competitive means that we're getting a good rate, because we also want to be good stewards of public dollars, right? But we want to give opportunities to businesses. When the bids come under $25,000, if they're between $10,000 and $25,000, we do an informal bid. And what that means is the bids are not sealed, but we still have to be competitive. So that means that we're going to be looking for partners like you to come in and tell us what you think is going to cost, or give us a quote on what you think it's going to cost. Even with $10,000 projects, when they're $10,000 or less, while we're not required to do a bid, as the department head, I always have my folks, you need to call and you need to compare prices. So one of the ways that we do that, we solicit quotes. And so again, I'm going to tell you guys how you get involved in all of this. The one thing to note with the city of Milwaukee, while we have the state authority to contract our own or do our own contracting, our threshold is $25,000. The city starts at $50,000. So theirs is a little bit higher. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but y'all decide for yourselves, right? The ways that you can participate in our process. So the first thing I'll say, bid on the contracts, right? If you feel like some of the work that we're putting out, when you look at the opportunities, maybe it's a little larger, come in as a sub. That means the networking opportunities they're offering today and tomorrow, take advantage of those. So get involved with some of the primes that are here and let them know that you're out there, you're available, and connect with them, because they're going to be looking for people so that they can meet those small business requirements on their contracts, because we stick to those. The other thing, well, I'll get to that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. You can also submit your contact information to us. So when my team is calling to do quotes, usually they're doing like a Google search or something if they don't know somebody already who does that work. So the way that you make sure that they're not Googling somebody other than you send an email to the port@milwaukee.gov, let them know what your service is. We put that in a file, so then when we go and we're looking for quotes, we can pull your name instead of looking in the virtual yellow pages. They don't have the physical books anymore, but we still do it. You can also become a certified small business enterprise through the city. So when we have contractors that will submit a bid, or they're looking to bid on a project, they might call us and say, well, there's no small businesses that work in this space and we can't meet that requirement. We send them to the Office of Small Business Development, and they've got a list of folks who can help them meet that requirement. So you want to make sure your name is on that list, right? So you can go to the city's website, Department of Administration, Office of Small Business Development. They can tell you all about that process. And the other thing I'll say, review the requirements every time. We had a recent situation where we had a bid opportunity. We put out the contract information. We had the dates. We did the addendums. We did the whole thing. And when it came down to opening the bids, someone didn't follow the instructions. We couldn't open their bid. And so we couldn't even consider them. So it's really important that when those contracts are coming out, you follow the instructions that they give you in the contract. If you've got questions, we've got a process for that too. All of that will be in the contract information when we put the notices out. The one thing I will say, I think we have a tendency, when I say network, I want you to do that here. I don't want you networking with my team, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because it can get really sticky if a contractor thinks that we're playing favorites. And so that's why I'm always on my team to make sure we're following the process, that we're not having folks communicate in ways that they shouldn't. So follow the process. When they say there's an addendum due, if you've got questions, make sure you're getting those questions in on time, because we want to make sure that the questions you're asking and the questions somebody you're competing with asking, that all of you have access to that information, right? Subscribe to eNotify. That is going to be the main way that you're going to get information from us. There was a time when Port Milwaukee did not use eNotify. We were getting the same bidders over and over. I didn't like that, because I know there are folks like you out here who are competing for this business, who have the skills, who have the resources that we need, and we should be kind of spreading the business around as much as we can. So make sure you're subscribing to our eNotify system. And if you don't know what that looks like, here it is. So you go to the city's website. You can look, I think down on the bottom of the screen, even at the bottom of the webpage, there's a link, because we want it out that bad that you can scroll through the top menus, but you can also go to the bottom, and it'll give you a link. But you want to go to that area at the top where you're going to click on subscriptions, and it says bid subscriptions. And then when you get there, there's all these boxes you can check. So 3 categories. There's the commodities, there's construction, and then there's services. You're going to go through there and don't look for specific departments. Look for what you offer. Check every box that applies to you, because every time a department goes in there, they're going to be basing their selection on who gets those notices on what they're looking for. So it can vary every time. So don't be so specific. If you feel like you've got a little bit to do with that, check that box. You can always review the requirements. If you decide it doesn't apply to you, then you haven't lost anything but maybe a few minutes of time to review. But you don't want to lose the opportunity. So with that, I'm going to just give you the website. This is where you go to sign up for eNotify. Make sure that you guys take that down and you check our website. If you've got questions after this, Port Milwaukee, or the Port email, port@milwaukee.gov, you can reach me there. And then I think we got a slide with all our info. We ready for that?
Yeah.
All right.